Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of Boston Borough Council's Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I'm Paul Gleeson and I am chairing the meeting this evening. My normal Vice Chair, Neil Drayton, as you must be aware, is unwell. And I'm sure as a committee, we all send him our best wishes, hoping him for a speedy recovery. Councillor Savinikin has volunteered to be my Vice Chair, and I thank her for that. Before we get to the preliminary items this evening, there's a bit of housekeeping. I would remind everyone in attendance this evening that this meeting is being streamed live over YouTube. Please ensure that when you address the committee, you use the microphones, else what you say won't be recorded. Restrooms facilities are available for ladies on this floor and for gentlemen halfway down the stairs. In the event of a fire alarm sounding, officers will escort everyone out of the building to the nearest safety point in the car park. Members of the public are free to leave the meeting at any time. Please raise your hand if you wish to leave, and please be patient whilst a member of the security team comes to help you leave the building. Finally, please be advised abuse or intimidation of any kind will not be tolerated. Any disturbance will result in the meeting being adjourned. Anyone who is deemed to breach these requirements will be warned and asked to leave the meeting if their behaviour persists. Then we now go to the preliminaries, part 1 of the agenda. Apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We've received a number of apologies for this meeting from Councillors Izard, Gilbert, Drayton, Welbury, Rylott, Marson and Staples. Thank you.
Thank you. Declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare any interest in respect of any items on the agenda? No. Do I have permission to sign the minutes of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting held on the 17th of June 2025? Agreed. Thank you. There's loads of, I'll do them at the end of the meeting. Public questions. Are there any questions from members of the public?
There are none for this meeting.
We now go to, that concludes the preliminaries. We'll now go to part 2 of the agenda. Item 1, which is the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Strategy and Action Plan. Our first item on the agenda this evening is, as I've said, and the report is on page 7 of the agenda and will be presented by Rachel Robinson. Rachel.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. So this refreshed Equality, Diversity and Inclusion strategy is presented to this committee following its initial review here in May. Oh, put it a bit closer. Is that better?
That's better.
Thank you. So as a recap, the original draft that came to you was developed in response to a key recommendation from the Local Government Association Peer Challenge, and that highlighted the need to have a clear and actionable approach to embedding equality, diversity and inclusion across the council. So the strategy aims to ensure that the council services are accessible, inclusive and reflective of the diverse communities we serve. During the first committee meeting, members provided valuable feedback to strengthen the strategy's clarity, inclusivity and data accuracy. So just as a brief summary, there was a discussion around language accessibility last time. So the strategy has been rewritten in plain English to improve clarity and accessibility for a wider audience. There was also discussion around broadened inclusion scope, so it now better reflects local socio-economic challenges, including economic hardship and political disengagement, particularly within the Boston area, and also around data integrity. So there was a discussion last time around the data. So the demographic data has been reviewed for accuracy, and they were correct, but what I've done is there's a terminology that was in there that's been refined to avoid any misinterpretation. So this updated version, along with the accompanying high-level action plan, is now returned for further consideration. It reflects the Council's ongoing commitment to fostering an inclusive environment for both its workforce and also the wider community, while ensuring compliance with the Equality Act and also the public sector equality duty. I will just share as well, I've also received feedback from Councillor Gilbert prior to the meeting, who welcomed the revisions, but he's just made a final suggestion to amend. There's one reference within there to community leaders, and he's requested that that's changed to community representatives rather than that term, which I'm happy to kind of take forward in the final iteration. So thank you again for consideration of the document, and I welcome any feedback. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any members got any points they want to raise? Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's very interesting. You know, we need to have a proper integration with all communities, and we need to practice really what we preach for. And I do believe that our council sometimes do translation, they do leaflet, and the communication probably is there through different ways. However, we don't probably I haven't seen a face-to-face communication, because I think probably that might bring more people out of their shell and talk to us about, probably whatever their concerns. And Boston has seen lately a big diversity. There is a lot of people in it. We have a diverse community. And it will be, I know it's difficult sometimes to reach everyone. However, we have probably, like I say, do face-to-face and talk to people and see what they need, or probably through schools. We have to do that, because I think it's a good to build that bridge with people to trust us, and we can trust them, and we can show them that we are here for them, not, just by paper, but also to talk to them. That's one thing. The second thing, I will come to page, I think 18 or 16. No, it's 16. Sorry, 16. And we have, when we have religion and belief, and I think is before the last line, which is, yeah. The only thing, it's probably an advice and a comment, which is, I think it's a very, very valid point. I'm not going to say who or which source has told me. There is some councillors, sometimes they interfere in some certain conversations. And when it comes to religion, they think that they know better than other people, which is they don't. A lot of people, and I'm sorry to say, they don't express or expose their ignorance, because talking about certain religions, if you don't read about it and you don't know it deeply, you cannot comment on it. And I think we should even, I don't know if we have to probably talk to all councillors to keep away from this sort of comments, especially if you don't have much knowledge about that. And I hope this will solve. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else got any comments? No. Councillor Woodliff.
I suppose I'm hoping that the town council, help actually, if we have one, will increase the exposure of the political side of life to many people. So I think if you live in a parish, you have the opportunity to, I suppose, get to know people in your parish, and the parish council as such is very close to you. Whereas in Boston, of course, we have that problem. We have no council as such at the present minute. We have the borough council, but it seems to be distant, doesn't it? Often seems very distant. So perhaps when we have a town council, we can deal with a situation where, Boston has experienced challenges of political disengagement. But it's not surprising, I think, when you have, we have BTAC, but it's not a town council. I think that's an issue of identity here. And I'm hoping that perhaps when the town council comes along, which I hope it will do, perhaps we can, turn the corner on political disengagement. Thank you, Chairman. Anyway.
Thank you. Can I just take advantage of that comment to remind people there is a consultation going on at the moment about us gaining a town council. If you search on the internet, you'll find a very good website with a questionnaire and things for you to complete. So the more people that joins in, it is very important that we have a town council for the unparished areas of Boston. So that's not nothing to do with this report, but nothing like an advert. Anybody else? Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Chairman. I apologise to the people who've heard me say what I'm going to say before. My ward is part of BTAC, Town Centre Ward. But my ward is not in the town centre. It's fringe of town. So I fall between too many stools. People assume, because I've got a road called Wibberton West Road and Wibberton Low Road, that they live in Wibberton, but they don't. If you live in Spilsby Road, you don't live in Spilsby or London Road, etc. So there is something, there's nothing able to foster that sense of community other than, well, I can say, fortunately, for most of my ward, there is at least St Thomas's Church, which has got a church hall, and that is used, and there's also a school. But this idea of a community is so difficult to define, and this is where I find I struggle. And then we've got something inviting us to deal with community groups. But what are community groups in my area? Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment? Oh, sorry.
No.
Oh, sorry.
So just going back to Councillor Danny in the first instance, obviously you talked about the political disengagement and the face-to-face, and you referenced schools there. Actually, we're already doing a number of pieces of work. Only very recently, actually, we had our democratic services team going into schools, and they run a bit of a mock election just to get people understanding what it is, what it's like working in a political arena, and they formed parties and stuff for the same thing that they then go home and they kind of have those conversations with parents. So it's kind of infiltrating in different ways. But also for me, as part of your other comment around discussions, perhaps where people may not be quite as informed as they potentially could be, the action plan does include a real focus around training, around education, both at an officer level and also for members to be able to participate as well. In terms of BTAC comment, obviously I can't necessarily speak specifically of your ward, but obviously within the action plan there is quite a bit of talk around how we look at community engagement and engaging with particular groups in there. And so actually when we come to delivering the action plan, that will be working with our services across the council of how we can best do that. And I'm sure at which point that's when we'll be engaging with ward councillors about how we can best do that as well. Thanks.
Anybody else got any? Councillor Danny.
I may come back. Thank you, Rachel, for your reply. I just want to go to page 19, and there is some stats at the top table, which is we have 20%. It's just looking at it, I mean, it's good to have this kind of percentage. It gives us probably a hint of what's going on and who we can target. It's just when you say at the last one, 59.1% deprived in one of more dimension. What do you mean by more dimension? I just want to, understand it more.
If you look on page 20, it does a note on deprivation, and there's 4 kind of areas in which deprivation is the indicators for deprivation.
Education,
and what they're sort of saying is deprived in one or more of those 4 areas. That's what that means.
Councillor Woodliff.
I'm just looking at the census data on page 25. I just wondered what DNA means. There must mean something. I just can't figure that one out. Can somebody educate me as to what DNA means? I know what DNA is otherwise, but I think
It will be did not answer.
did not answer. Oh, so obviously.
Did not answer.
Yes, I know. I wonder what it might be, but yes, I mean, I think the information here is very, very interesting, comparing Boston, East Lindsey, and South Holland with the national averages, and I think the deprivation side, isn't it? Is a note. Household deprivation is it 59.1% deprived in one or more dimensions. That's for Boston. East Lindsey, 61.2% deprived in one or more dimensions. And then South Holland 56%. Then look at the national average, it's 51%. So I identifies our situation in this particular area right across, isn't it? I think it's something that government should have tackled a long time ago, because it's obviously we've got a very serious problem here, and producing stats is one thing, but actually doing something about it seems to be quite another. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Pry.
Do I? No, I don't know what you actually.
Page 26. It's useful to have these points from the census, which compare us with the rest of the country, and we find out that somewhere is the most deprived council in the country across the index. But in many cases, the devil is in the detail. For example, page 26, employment status not being a protected characteristic. Saying that Boston has 57.2 in employment as at the date of the census is not that useful unless we apply local knowledge, which tells us that most of it is very low paid employment and unsecure employment. And that statistic is almost certainly different now in that respect, and will be at the next census in however many years, if it happens at all. So although this is a snapshot to compare us with the rest of the country, it's the greater detail that is more useful than just the headline figures. And I use that as an example, and it applies to other things as well, almost certainly health. But thank you.
Are you happy if I just add a comment onto that one? I think it's a really valuable point. The census data is more kind of much broader in order for us to do that. But what we actually have is also within the action plan. It's 1.1.1 is produce a local profile and go into that much more detail. Like you say, the granular of it. Yes, the percentage of the employment, but like you say, low unemployment, low paid, skilled, and all that kind of stuff. That will come from that much more local picture.
Sorry, Councillor Alison Austin.
Sorry to come back again.
Yes,
something just flitted through my mind. I can't remember the exact occasion, I'm sorry, but a lot of people have a G against their, on the electoral list, have a G against their name. Now, can someone please advise me what that meant? Because 1 in 6 of my residents had a G against them. It's something to do with eligibility in certain elections, isn't it?
They can't vote in general elections.
Ah, right.
They can only vote in district council elections. Yeah, it has actually been changed, but that's what the G was for, sort of thing. Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk a few times. This is a question, Rachel, and this is coming from, I think, government sources. I think Boston was classified as #1 in the country in universal credit. And probably you will agree with me, it's over 4,000 people claiming universal credit in Boston. And I'm sorry, Boston is always top when it comes to bad things, but it shouldn't be like that. So my question, because I think the government, the actual government, they're trying to tackle the welfare and reduce it by billions and billions. That's their aim. will these impact on our people? If we are number one, or we're having the highest number in the country, it will obviously impact on our residents, whoever is claiming universal credit, which will pull us more down to poverty than anything else, knowing that we have over 32% of child poverty in Boston, and it's quite an alarming situation. Do you have any plans, or do you have a futuristic studies or anything to help us probably reduce or work on these figures and see where we can go and how we can tackle them?
I was going to say, I'll answer in all honesty. I don't have a great grand plan at the moment. Obviously, within the action plan, the point of it is recognizing that not everybody has the same start in life. And so actually some of this stuff is really the simple things of actually being able to access services, being able to access things that are entitled to them. But also it is, again, goes on that broader kind of education and training and things like that. So engaging people in the political process, how can they stand, how can they represent their communities when it comes to things like that, being able to access education. So again, part of the role within here is obviously we don't have children's services, we don't have adult services currently, but obviously it's around how we can, as an authority, influence those decisions that are happening. So there's a lot around influence at this stage, but my personal view, this is 25 to 28. It carries on beyond that. So.
Yes, certainly.
So what you say is very valid. Yes, so, you know, we try to work with the communities, and as an authority, we have that ability to probably enforce some probably ways of dealing with it. And I think through education, it could be much easier for integration and building a better life for the local people. So why not? Because it's just an opinion of mine. Use a pilot scheme from Boston and get in contact with a lot of employment agencies who hire people and give jobs to people being illiterate. They can't read, they can't write. And I will tell you just an example. A friend of mine is a manager in a factory. And he told me sometimes we take two people, give them a scale and say, all you have to do is take 6 kilos of this product, put it in a bag and put this sticker on it. And he said, you will go 1 hour and come back, you found them chatting, they didn't understand what they are doing. Why I'm saying that and giving this example, so if we can tackle the employment agencies and talk to them and see, because I do believe that there is a lot of free classes to learn English, and use our authority or Boston as a pilot scheme to give these people the chance to come and learn through the agencies, because they will tell them, and then probably people will start coming. Because I'm not English, however, proud to be British. I've been here for 30 years. Some people are very shy to go and learn languages because they feel intimidated. They may do mistakes, it may this. And so there's all these things going around their heads and their thoughts, and it stopped them from learning. And I think if we make it easy through the employment agencies, probably we can probably touch a small number of people who can, if they're satisfied, they go from there and tell to other people to come and learn. Just as something.
Thank you. Can I just thank Rachel actually for all the work she's done on this report? I mean, it, in my view, has been transformed since our May meeting, which again I would argue is part of the role that Scrutiny is rightly playing. That we looked at the first report and said, no, this needs to be slightly different. But I do think it's important that we do have a policy across the partnership, which we would now have. I personally welcome, and I think what people have said that we do, and so I think we're now happy to endorse this and for it to go forward. A quick aside, as people are alluded to, we do have over 5,000 children living in poverty in the borough, and we as a council don't have that many leavers really. But I mean, we did this year, and I think we need to be proud of it. We did change the way that council tax benefit is given to families with children. They can now get 100% relief rather than having to find a quarter of it. So there are now 3,000 families, I think, roughly, who are now paying no council tax or really very little. So we are trying to do the best we can, but it is something we need to sit on top of. But I think on this report anyway, I think we all welcome this and are happy for it to go forward. Is that agreed? Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Although I know this is a riveting meeting, but you don't have to stay. Which now brings us to item 2 on the agenda. Our second item of business this evening is the South and East Lincolnshire Council crowdfunding scheme, 2-year progress report, which is on page 37 of the report, and will be presented by Nicola Holderness. Nicola. Oh, sorry, Councillor Creswell, you're presenting.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a 2-year progress report on our crowdfunding scheme, which is known as the South and East Lincolnshire Council's Crowd. The South and East Lincolnshire crowdfunding scheme was launched in spring 2023, and the innovative platform enables community groups to raise funds for their projects. And you've spoken a lot this evening about community, and this fosters community involvement from the outset. Without the buy-in and contributions from the community, these projects would not be able to proceed. So it's based on what the community is supporting. Currently, projects are eligible for up to £5,000 from the Boston Pot, while also crowdfunding for the remainder of their project costs. As set out in the report, you will see the scheme has supported 10 projects across the partnership with a total value of £105,000, of which £59,000 has been contributed by the crowd. This demonstrates a really strong return on our investment. Please note this report does not include the current projects who are crowdfunding, of which there are 6 currently open. 3 of these are in our area directly. As you will see, looking at the impact report, the scheme performs really well, both against its original targets and outcomes that were set, and overall achievements of the scheme include improvements to community buildings, new events, increase to community engagement, and an increase in our volunteer opportunities, which is something we've heavily promoted recently in the borough. Boston has been seeing a number of successful projects over the past 2 years. Cultural events have been supported, improvements to Fidel House, Taste It Lincolnshire, their arts theatre production. The Community Growers project has been really successful. Further details of these and all the successful projects are in the appendix of the report. Our spring window funding window is progressing well, with projects seeing contributions from the crowd, and assessments are starting to take place, with 2 projects reaching their target, 2 within sight of their target, and a further 2 continuing to fundraise. I hope that's succinct. These are the main points of the report. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members have any points they wish to raise? Open discussion? No? Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's no question, Councillor Cresswell. It's just I'm very happy to see these things, and I'm happy to see that people are from different, diverse communities that are included in that, because we had complaints before from the Lithuanian community. Nobody, bothers about them. The Polish, nobody. But it's nice to see these things, and it's nice to hear as well the feedback from people in the street, because I know a few Lithuanians and a lot of Polish and their feedback and their comments are very positive, and they're much more happier to be a part of the town. And that's what they are here for. People, they move to live here and make it their home. So we have to make them welcome in their home and be part of us. And it's good to see these donations and the money raised for that. And hopefully we keep working for a better town and make Boston much better than just hearing the negative things, poverty, less wages, this, that. But we can make it better if we want to. But thank you very much for the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Woodliff.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. I was just reading it. I noticed that today the leverage from the council's investment from the funding pot is 1 to 4, which means for every £1 the council pledges to a fund, the crowd contributes an additional £4. It's quite a lot of money. I did wonder whether it'd be 1 for 1 actually. Looking at government schemes generally for charities, it's like Departments of Emergency Committee and so on, it tends to be on a 1-to-1 basis. That's quite a large difference. Has any consideration to perhaps saying it from 1 to 3 or 1 to 2, as opposed to 1? So it means a group have got to find £4 to get £1 out of the council. Has anybody considered perhaps more generous ratio? Thank you, Chairman.
Do you want to?
Okay, so firstly, if I can speak to Councillor Danny, thank you very much. I mean, it's always really exciting for me when these projects come in and I get to read about them, and certainly about the diversity in the community. And it's always really interesting for me to find out why they want to crowdfund and what they want to do with it. And that's really nice. Gives me a real insight into what they want to do and what they want to involve their community and the wider community in. So thank you. That's a really, really good point. Regarding the ratios, what we do is we're actually about trying to get the community buy-in. So we're trying to get projects that the community are really, we can see that they want to invest in this and it's important to them. And then the weighting of how much we want to put into that as a council, we can discuss, and we make a judgment over, are we going to give them the full £5,000? Are we going to give them a little bit less? You know, we can look at that ratio. But a lot of them come to us with a real commitment. Some of them have already had up to 20 people who have donated to their fund. So we can see that the engagement is there. So that's really what it's about, is to make sure that the community are really engaging with it and to encourage the community to donate.
Thank you. That's an excellent answer. I'm very, very pleased with that. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Councillor Alison Austin.
I felt that we, in thinking of ourselves in Boston, we perhaps weren't utilising this as much as possibly the other groups in the other parts of the partnership. I mean, am I right in thinking the only one that was in our borough is the Fidel House one, or have I missed something? Oh no, there's the gardening. Yeah. No, I'll stop there. Now I think back here that there's about 3 that I noticed. Yes, so it's a start, but whether, well, how well publicised is it?
Do you want to answer that, or we could wait to Councillor Pryke?
Do you want me to speak? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
if you answer.
Yeah. Thank you, Alison. And we've done loads of advertising. We've gone out to lots of community groups to encourage them and give them support in actually setting it up, because some community groups are actually they're not they need assistance to set these up. They're quite scared sometimes of all this online money raising. So we've done a lot of work on that. We've got the 3 projects that have gone through. We've got 3 more at the moment going through. So we are seeing an increase in that, and we will continue to promote it and really raise the profile. I think it's one of those, it's a bit of a snowball effect. Once they see them being successful, more and more different groups will come on board to use it to crowdfund. So we're hoping that it will be a bit more of a snowball effect going forwards. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Pryke.
Just a brief comment that in other councils in the country which have recently changed control to another party, have quite a lot of members making a lot of noise about what they call DEI, but we call EDI. And I suspect that if people tried to apply those ideas to our area, they would get quite a surprise if they're proposing to abolish our activities in this front, because they will be attacking our own communities by doing so. I had always understood that the stupidities going on in the USA at the moment have only harmed their own communities. And I very much hope that any party doesn't get the opportunity to destroy these sorts of activities in our area and the rest of the partnership and so on. So if anything, we could, or we should be using these examples of what's good about it and what we don't want to lose if someone says, get rid of these initiatives because they're all woke nonsense. I dare say you'd agree with me.
Absolutely, 100%. I can't promote them enough. So I take your point. Thank you very much.
Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just a brief, it's a question. And because we talk about Fidel House, we talk about our heritage in this town. And I think I will follow what Councillor Pryke has said. I think we have to work on our heritage and our morals and our values and principles, what we have in this town, and we have to keep them alive. Coming back to our historic buildings, I have met with the owners of the mill, and that was probably because I know the owner, and we were talking, and he told me, Anton, nobody want to help me from the council, and we want to keep the mill running. Now we have to sell it because we haven't got the money to go for it. Is there anything that we can do to help them and keep the mill, because it's still intact? It's quite an attractive things to have in Boston. It's by the river. It looks nice. It has few houses. It has a coffee shop there. They used to ground some wheat. They sell a kilo, I think, for £5. They say, but it's not enough for us, to maintain the building. However, if there is any maintenance, we get it through volunteers. So my question, have we looked at that? Have we talked to them and how we can help them? Because they're part of our community and what they have done is great. So we should support them to keep the same thing running. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. It's a really valuable part of our town and something where, like you say, you can go and get the wheat. And I know they sell live yeast and stuff. I know it's been brilliant. Unfortunately, particularly through the crowdfunding, we can't support them because they do run it as a business. It's not a charity.
I will contact the UK SBF team though and see if they can help through the Grants for Growth scheme and get them to contact.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was going to come as a second question, because I think the mill in Ilford has got some grants, I think, from the county, which is probably a few years ago, to rebuild it and make it run again. So we have to try all the channels, which is we can, or the doors, knock any door, so we can get them something and, just keep it, because I think it's a good thing for Boston.
Yeah,
thank you very much for your effort.
Thank you. Anybody else? Again, I think this is an example of what a council should be doing. We should be enabling, and that's what we're doing. And I think the point more about the 4-to-1 ratio is, in fact, we're actually growing that money through crowdfunding. So what we're actually able to do is take a smaller pot of money and deliver more for the community, or help them deliver more for themselves. And so I think we more than welcome this. This is for noting, are we happy that it is noted, and we support it for future growth. So, thank you very much indeed for your report. Thank you. And again, you don't need. Bottom. So we now move to my item 3. Our third item of business this evening is the South and East Lincolnshire Council's body-worn video policy. Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Allen in March this year provided members with an update on the South and East Lincolnshire Council's Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act policy during the year of 25-26. He highlighted that we'll be bringing forward a brand new partnership body-worn video policy demonstrating an ongoing commitment to the health, safety and welfare of our staff, service users and anyone else affected by these activities. This new policy will enable frontline officers to utilise body-worn video devices where it is lawful, reasonable, justifiable and proportionate to do so. The policy will demonstrate the appropriate technical and organisational measures that have been considered and will be implemented, integrated, the principles of data protection in all the processing of evidence and data. Body-worn video devices provide an excellent standard of evidence when undertaking regulatory and enforcement activities. However, they must be deployed appropriately and the information gathered correctly managed. The purpose of the new policy will to be ensure that the operational use of body-worn video is lawful, reasonable, justifiable and proportionate, and that body-worn devices will only be deployed when it is deemed necessary for the purpose of reducing aggression towards officers or in the gathering of evidence by trained staff in accordance with legal requirements, policies and mandatory guidance. It will set out roles and responsibilities, provide staff with the correct procedures for collecting, downloading, processing, presenting and retaining evidence obtained from the body-worn devices. So we are asking members to obviously to comment on the policy and the other documents that we've put from there, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that any members may have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Woodley. Then Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. Peter, will this cover PSPSO work? Is it, are we going to use body on camera to, support our officers if they're enforcing the PSPO area inside the town?
Yes, the quick answer to that, if I'm answering that. At the moment, we have officers, external officers for Kingdom who use obviously for environmental protection, for littering and stuff, and they have body-worn cameras, right. So they utilise that, and they're very effective in relation to not just reducing the aggression that obviously that some of the officers carrying out their duties have for them, but also the evidence in relation to quicker court hearings where people will accept the straight away rather than having to go into court. We've utilised obviously the learning from those external forces from there, and now we're thinking that we should really have them for our own officers from there. And I think this gives us the ability for our frontline officers, like those rangers when they're coming on board soon, coming forward, sort of thing, and any other enforcement officers to have that ability. So yes, PSPO enforcement or anyone in those high visibility uniform ICE patrolling. Then this will be utilised for those officers. It's not a mandatory requirement, but it's going to be encouraged that for their own protection that we believe that the body-worn cameras should be utilised as part of that work. Car park enforcement officers, anyone that's the council officers can have the ability to get a camera. They're based in CCTV suite, they're linked to our CCTV system, so the retention of the evidence that's then produced from that is safe and secure. No officer has access to any of the evidence that's on there. They'll be trained. That's all managed through our normal CCTV, and obviously they do that on a daily basis. But yeah, any officers, including any members, if they wish to, as long as they have the training, use them if they feel they're going into situations where it could be a little bit concerning. Then obviously members and officers also have that ability to have body-worn cameras as well.
Right. So members go in the council meetings, couldn't they, perhaps?
If you wish to have one, yes, absolutely. I'll have to give you some training on it first of all, but yes, that's no problem as well. Okay, again, I would potentially encourage, obviously, members, if they're going into surgeries or if they go into areas that have concerns, there's a number of measures, safety measures that would, making sure you don't go on alone, making sure people are aware. But again, I'm aware that some MPs and some members do have body-worn cameras when they go into their constituency as well.
Yes, I can see certain issues. I can think of one or two where perhaps a body-worn camera might have given me a greater sense of security, because when you go to see people, sometimes you can be I've never really experienced anything very dangerous, but one or two I thought, well, I've had one or two actually. I've asked my wife to come to me and sit and just watch from the car, because you can't be sure quite how things will go. So that's good. What about the length and lifetime of this device? Will they survive? Wear and tear, or is it 2 years and in the bin, is it?
Well, I hope not. We've obviously got the new state-of-the-art camera sort of thing, which is connected to our CCTV systems, and obviously they're not, right. No disrespect, they're not just ones you can go to any hardware store or off Amazon to get them from there. Right. We've gone for the ones that's literally can be connected straight to our CCTV system. They all come with protection packaging, so they've all come the high vis ones, so they're not they're what we call overt cameras, so they're not small ones, and they've got protective gear from there, sort of thing. From there. So I'm hoping if they do happen to, they'll be connected to clothing, so they shouldn't be falling off, sort of thing, but there should be some protection, there should be robust. They all come with warranties, and obviously they will be there'll be an ongoing process, like any of our CCTV cameras. We'll put in a program to replace them if they're overused, but they only should be putting the cameras on when there's that justified reason for that. They shouldn't be running all the time. So that should lengthen the life of it as well, because they're not running all the time like our CCTV normal cameras are as well.
That's excellent. Thank you, Chairman. That's really excellent
Councillor.
reply. Thank you, Peter.
Councillor Danny, then Councillor Pryke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I think it's very good tool because now I can see it that cashiers like in Lidl, as there's a lot of places are using them because people, they get abused. So, you know, it deters, you know, an antisocial behavior. And I'm aware that they switch them on only if it's needed and they're switched off if they're not. One of my questions, first one, is for how long do we keep the data before destroying it? And then I have another question.
No problems. I'll happy to answer that. We're keeping it exactly the same. We keep it for our public space CCTV. So it's 30 days. That's best guidance from the Surveillance Camera Commissioner. Obviously, if you need the evidence that you use from there, then they will put an image review sheet into our CCTV operators. They will then burn the evidence off onto a disk, exactly like we do for the police or officers now. But if the cameras are not used, with the cameras that we've got, there's a docking station in CCTV. So when the officer uses it, it will literally download the images onto the CCTV system and come off the camera completely. After 30 days, like because they get onto the same system with our public space CCTV cameras, it will wipe off. But if it's an officer then puts a review sheet in, they can obviously get the evidence burned onto a disk with a statement ready for that court or for that prosecution guide. So 30 days is the maximum days from there, sort of thing.
Can we retract any information after 30 days if it's needed?
Only if it's because an image review sheet got in and the CCTV operators have actually burned it onto a disk. After the 30 days, it's gone. It comes off the camera pretty much within an hour of being a dock-in, but on the system, it's automatically retention, so it would wipe it after that 30 days. But you can isolate it off, but you need to be justified and have an audit trail why you want to save that evidence from there if you're not going to burn it onto a disk ready for that prosecution or court stage.
The other question, which is, I think, because now there is a lot of, you know, technology has gone forward a big time. Are we going to probably introduce the ANA face recognition around Boston? Especially, we are only 48,000 people, and there is. I will just give an example. I know, as you know, Mr. Hoon, there's a lot of shoplifting. So if we can use this face recognition for people once they get to the shop, maybe an alarm goes on or something to trigger that to prevent anything from happening. Just futuristic thought, probably.
The cameras that we've got have not got facial recognition on there. They have literally just a facility to record sound and obviously and images from there, sort of thing. We have got the facilities if we need them. We've not got them utilised in any of our public space CCTVs because obviously I think we're getting into areas where we need to have a real debate on justification for using facial images and stuff from there. But no, with body cams, they're literally just there to record the sound and images. They've not got any facilities of highlighting or flashing up to say that that's a recognised person or wanted from there. That'll be down to the judgment of that officer and the skills of that officer going around from there, like our CCTV operators have that.
No, just probably a request to our chairman. I tell you, I would love to have the training. And I tell you why, because sometimes you catch a flight tip in front of your eyes and you can do nothing as a councillor. Or you can just tell them probably you shouldn't do that, but nobody listens sometimes. So if probably we can carry it with us for 1 hour around the town or where we live, and it will get us to that stage. If we find something wrong, at least we know the person, because from experience, if you report a flight tipping, you have probably to accept that you can go to the court to testify against the person, and it might create probably a bigger an issue for me as a councillor. However, if I have a camera, probably I would just take the picture and tell to the person, you can't do that. You're on camera. I work for the council. I'm a councillor. You shouldn't do that. And maybe it may deter that action and it protects me in the same time.
I'm certain Mr. Hunt will take away and give that some thought.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, any members can have the training. There is approximately going to be about a 2-hour training session to talk about the legislation, to talk about the rules in relation to when you should be putting it on, when you should be taking off, the speech that you need to say as soon as you put it on, which needs recording, and obviously those data protection laws from there, sort of thing. I think I would like to probably have a conversation with any member who wishes to wear them in relation, because I would have a concern for any members going out into certain areas where they feel there's a need for them, and, you know, officers, obviously that's what they're there for, and they have that other protection and stuff to do that and that training. It's not saying that we wouldn't allow many members to do it, but I think I would probably want to have a conversation is to try to say why you felt you need to do that when that's what officers are paid to do as well, sort of thing. But more than happy. Yes, no, I understand. Yeah, absolutely. And if you're out there doing, some work in the community where you're doing that, then obviously that could be a facility we could use. But I'd probably need to have a conversation with Mr. Allen over there for our head of enforcement before we got members out doing the officers' jobs. Thank you.
Councillor Woodliff.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Chairman.
Well, then Councillor.
Right. And I just to come back. So actually, the device records the pictures, which are then downloaded in the office. I just wondered whether it could be transmitted directly into our CCTV system. So if you turned on the device, it would then transmit to the nearest CCTV camera, and then straight to here. Because I'm thinking about if anybody had to go at somebody, they might want to remove the camera by force. And if it's recording and the recording goes straight to the nearest camera, and then straight to here, that makes it difficult for anybody to smash it up, basically. I won't be wearing any of these things. Officers and members, as far as I'm concerned. No, thank you. Yeah.
Sorry if I might announce that.
Yeah.
There is facility where we could put a SIM card in all of the cameras, and it does bring the images back over the cloud back into CCTV from there. We went against that, so mainly not because of just the cost sort of thing, because we have concerns that when it goes into the cloud, there is an opportunity where it could get hijacked the images and stuff from there. So we went against that one at this stage, sort of thing. We don't just obviously let officers out there with that cameras from there. Obviously, because they're picking up the camera from the CCTV suite, then the CCTV duty operator is aware that they'll be wearing it. If they're patrolling in the town centre, obviously they can monitor when they go out. They've also got handheld radios for systems, they've got phones. So obviously there's other ways that they can call up from there. And I'd hope their skills would basically mean that they're not going to get someone to try and grab a camera off which is connected to a body worn vest or whatever from there, sort of thing. I've got the skills to move out of that situation before it goes from there. But yes, there is other ways that we can obviously protect the officers as well out there. Thank you.
Councillor Price.
Thank you, Chairman. First one follows on from the question that Councillor Dunny was referring to about fly tipping and evidence for that. On another council that I was a member of before joining this one, I remember there was a change in legislation in the 2010s, I'm not sure exactly which year, which enabled the council, as a principal council, to pursue fly tippers on the statement, the written statement of council officers and even councillors. And suddenly we were able to just report what we had seen in writing. On Tuesday there's such and such, the occupants of a vehicle with this registration number threw bags of McDonald's stuff onto the highway. And that was enough for the council to chase up the registered owner of the vehicle and pursue them through the courts if necessary. Can we do that here?
Yes, that facilities, we've always had that facility since before 2010. It's literally, we used to have forms. I don't know, again, it's an area of environmental enforcement done by Kingdom, so it's been a slight while since I've had littering under there. But yeah, a statement from a councillor, from any member of the public, if they're willing to give a statement to say at this date, at this time, I saw this and I can identify that person, and then willing to go to court to say that, you can just use today evidence of that person, so you don't need the video game. You can go by.
Be an online form.
There was an online form. I think
it still is.
I think the probably is. I know we used to do cards that we used to hand out in reception where members of the public can come and say, yeah, I was driving down the road, here's the registration detail, I saw them throwing whatever out, sort of thing. And then the officers would go for the register keeper, give the details in and do it from there. I think I'm looking at Christian, I was nodding. So yeah, that's still a facility you can do that. So yes,
okay.
Members can do it. And obviously any member of the public can do the same as well.
We've actually had some successful prosecutions.
We have. I think that's quite a regular thing. It's not just obviously the officers who witnesses themselves. It's done on people reporting that, especially with fly tips, because they're usually in areas where you've not got your CCTV cameras or not people about, but the odd car goes past and they see someone doing it, they'll say, at this date, at this time, I saw this, and they're willing to give a statement to do it, and they've utilised those.
I was on the working group on enforcement across the three councils, and Kingdom came to see us over 2 meetings, I think it was. Our meetings were pretty badly attended, to be fair, but talking to colleagues, I don't think they were aware that we could do that, or that our officers could do that. So perhaps we could recommend
Yes.
that the information be put around again
Yeah.
a little bit more.
I'm always going to give a caveat. You need to make sure that obviously keep yourself safe and obviously, keep a distance. I wouldn't expect that. I wouldn't want you to go and obviously go up to that person and do it. But if you can safely get the information and pass it on to the appropriate officers and teams, then absolutely, that's a real good way of getting that evidence through there. But keep yourself safe.
Right. The main thing I wanted to mention was that referring to pages 74 and 75. Obviously, there's the limitations on use of body-worn cameras and the confidential information which is not going to get revealed to whoever. But as a public body, are we, Boston Borough Council, subject to freedom of information requests? Can I have a copy of whatever your officers have recorded me doing in Boston Town Centre yesterday?
Any person can put a subject information request, even if it has CCTV, and they can ask for, obviously, if one of our public space CCTV cameras or those, we would have to redact any collateral intrusion of what we call it, of anyone else that could be on that cameras at all. But yes, like our CCTV cameras, if they want to say at this date, at this time, I believe your camera's caught me, can I have that evidence? They could put a subject access request in, and they could, but we wouldn't allow any other apart from that person on there. Everything else around of it would be redacted out of it so they couldn't see it, because they're only allowed images of themselves and nobody else with that request.
Okay, and how would those people find out about that right?
Usually in cases where an officer's gone to them and they've obviously dealt with them for an enforcement matter, and they're aware that there's a camera gone on short, then they can request it from there. But normally in those situations it's usually because they've done an offence, usually a littering offence, and they would get a copy or they get a sight of that copy as part of the prosecution going forward.
Do we tell them you can have a copy of it?
No, not normally. Not normally, but it's part of obviously the data protection.
So
And
they
obviously
probably need
subject
legal
access
advice
request.
to tell them that.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Councillor Scoot.
Thank you, Chair. Peter, you mentioned the enforcement officers and the parking officers. How far down the line is this going to be rolled out? I'm thinking of park keepers, refuse collectors. Certainly, I've been to funerals where it's got fairly rowdy, so thinking of the crowd. So is it going to be rolled out across those areas as well?
I mean, for us, it's a facility. I mean, I would probably expect those officers that may be going into, I'd say, difficult situations, but enforcement type roles where there's likelihood that someone might not be happy with being approached for whatever reason. But yes, the facilities will be open for all officers if they can, as long as, justify the reason why you would want one sort of thing. It's not there to, obviously, as I said, it's not there to have it all around because you're doing a bit of gardening and you think it looks pretty to get a video of you doing a thing from there. We'd have to give that justification for it. But yeah, any officer can utilise it. They would have to have the training. They would have to sign the cameras in and out. So there are rules in relation to that. But again, I don't think there'd be any reason why any officer, if they're on the caveat that at the moment I've got 6 cameras that's in CCTV. So once those 6 cameras are out, then obviously we may need to consider if we need to purchase some more. But at the moment, it's the start of a process, and we're hoping it will be successful and officers will utilise them as part of their safety equipment going forward.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Dunny.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to ask Mr. Hoon, these body cams reduced the amount of antisocial behaviour, crimes and everything?
Yeah, it's been proven that just not obviously from our Kingdom colleagues, obviously well and well, but also in other councils, that it does reduce aggression towards officers, because I think you've got to be pretty silly person if you're going to kick off or you're going to cause problems when you know there's a camera recording your every move and every sound sort of thing. So it has been proven that it can reduce that aggression towards the officers doing that sort of thing, and also for that protection of also the officers, but also themselves as well. When it's on recording, where it's proven if there's a complaint made against the officer sort of thing, then the person, you can see exactly what was heard and said if it was on there. So it's also for the protection of the person that's being dealt with as part from the officer as well. But yes, it has been proven to reduce aggression towards officers what have body-worn cameras on, to those that don't.
And again, everybody have their say. Yeah, thank you. Again, this is, I think, a great example of where the council partnership works. We've now got a really well-written and detailed policy that will apply across all 3 councils. Anybody will be able to access it and read it and see what we can do and how we do it. So it's all nice and clear. Just for clarity, obviously, the people from Kingdom are doing that under their own policy.
They are.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it isn't that they've been doing it willy-nilly. They actually do it under their own policy. But I think it's useful. I mean, today it was reported that the Renters' Rights Bill is going to allow councils to do unannounced inspection of rental property. So again, that could well be a situation where a camera would prove quite useful.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's, again, I'll say that actually the quality of our reports we've been having recently are really now very good. This is well written, easy to understand, fully accessible to all of us, and I personally welcome it. And I think the comments have been noted, but I think we endorse it. Thank you. Everybody
Sorry, if I can just add one thing, Mr. Chair, I forgot. When we went to scrutiny at South Holland, the South Holland members requested that it was only the body-worn cameras that are connected to the CCTV suite, because obviously we've got then that protection of that data from there, and it's utilised as we would for the police officers, obviously use equipment from there. So we've actually added into it that only council officers can utilise the council body-worn cameras that are connected to our CCTV for our procedures, so they can't just go out and get their own cameras sort of thing and utilise their own systems, because we've got those protections. So we've added that into the policy from that from the scrutiny of the South Holland from that, and that's gone all that will go across all the partnership.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and we're all happy with that. But again, thank you, Peter, for your time. Oh, sorry, Councillor Austin.
It's a sad reflection on our society if we're using these devices to monitor people throwing litter out of their cars. Really, shouldn't we be educating the public? I mean, I could sit outside our house and I think all the employers in Marsh Lane could do with some education. It's hopeless.
I think in general, obviously, we wouldn't be using them for that purpose. No. You can just note the car's registration number and report it.
Yeah, these are definitely not to use those when you're driving. These are for those
this is for
polling officers or going
an officer who's going to do a piece of enforcement.
Yes.
And just wants that, the safety and the record.
Yeah.
And so it is, more of a one-to-one than a random catching somebody. Again, thank you, Peter, for your time. And I'd say we've happily endorsed it.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you, boy.
Which now brings us to item 4 on the agenda. Our 4th item of business this evening is the Q4 24-25 Performance and Risk Report, which is page 133 of the agenda, and this will be presented by Susan Roll. Suzanne.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So, this is the quarterly performance report. It's the Q4 report as at the end of March, and we used to bring this to the Environment and Performance Committee to inform their work programme. So that's the reason that it's here tonight for this committee. What we tend to use the performance information for at Scrutiny is as an indicator of any areas of particular interest. If there are any areas where the performance you'd like to know more in-depth information about that, then it's something that you might consider adding to your work programme, which comes next. So just to bear that in mind as we go through it. On the second page, on page 134, I'd just draw your attention to the pie chart there around performance that just shows the majority of the performance is green. It's very good performance. There's one measure that is a red measure, which is off target, and that's around customer contact. So other than that, all the areas are on track or close to on track. And then the other area I wanted to draw your attention to is on page 135, and that's the responses to some questions that were raised at a previous meeting. So we've got some feedback there, and I'll just go through those very quickly. The first question was around swimming. So in the Q2 report, the swimming numbers were down, and you'll see in the Q4 report that the swimming numbers continue to be down. And the response has been provided by the Leisure Services Officer that that's predominantly due to seasonality. There's a slight change in the way that the figures are reported. So in the appendix itself, it explains there that we used to have school bookings and ongoing bookings, and that's slightly different now. But that doesn't account for the whole of the change over the period. In the appendix, it also explains about the various outages that they've had at the centre for different reasons. So the commentary explains all of that. And the officer has just asked us to note that we're likely to see a further reduction in Q1 due to the building work that's underway at the moment there. So again, that might be an area, if you have particular interest in that, that you might want to consider for your work programme, or to raise that with the officer to see when is a good time to come back and feed back to you about that project itself and the impact it's having on performance. The second question was around the local authority error rate for housing benefits. It's a little bit complicated, but I'll try to explain it as best I can. So the Department for Work and Pensions pay us financial support to cover the cost of housing benefit payments. They pay 100% of our costs where it is correctly paid. They do understand that there are some errors and delays that are unavoidable in such a complex system. So they allow us a certain amount of error and they'll still pay us the 100%. And the level that we monitor the performance against is where they would find that unacceptable. So if we had more error than they expected, they would reduce the subsidy that we are paid. And you'll see from the papers that we are well within that level. So we just keep an eye on the performance so that you're aware of it if that happens. The third question is over the page on page 136. That is around a clarification, the difference between the properties that are liable to council tax and those that are adjusted. And that's just to explain that the adjusted ones are where there are discounts or exemptions. So all properties are subject to council tax unless there's a discount or an exemption, and that's the two different figures. And then finally, question 4 is around the callback function. And we've just provided some background information there about how the callback function works. There are anecdotally some issues where people aren't hanging on long enough to the call so that the system recognises what number to ring back. So there's been quite a bit more publicity about how to use the callback system. Sometimes people ring from a number that is withheld, and obviously then there's no possible way of us calling back to that number. So there's a little bit more on that, and I think they're looking at improving the wording, so when you first get through, it explains really clearly that you must hang on to the call until that callback has been registered. But when it's registered, that works really well and very successfully. But we continue to have issues with the number of calls, they're increasing, and the complexity of calls, so that people who ring up are having a number of difficulties and the calls aren't very quick to resolve. But the customer contact team are doing all that they can. They're extending their hours, they're working at different times. There hasn't been a huge take up of that, but it is on offer for people. They can do things online as well. So we're trying lots of different ways to be as accessible as possible to people on customer contact. So those were the areas I just wanted to raise with you. If you have any questions about those or about appendix with the Q4 information, happy to take those.
Thank you, Suzanne, for that. Again, a nice, a very clear report, as usual. Any questions? Councillor Pryke, then Councillor Tanny.
I wondered if someone else was going to raise it first. Our famous red marker on page, what is it, 150? Which we had noticed in our predecessor scrutiny meetings, of course. Oh, I should say thank you for the answers to the E&P scrutiny stuff, because we're now a merged scrutiny committee. But I appreciate the answers that you've given us to the questions raised at earlier meetings. Anyway, on this lot, obviously it's PSPS who are responsible for dealing with the calls that come in. I recall that, not the last meeting, but maybe the one before that, when you were presenting a report, somebody asked, are the PSPS management aware of their poor performance causing Boston to drop down the league table of performance relative to everyone else? And the answer was yes. And yes, I know we've got second home surcharges now causing more inquiries, but is there any indication that they've increased the staffing sufficiently to prevent us staying in the red like this?
I don't know the detail of the work that they're doing to address the issues, but I know that they are doing that, and there's a regular meeting that the 3 portfolio holders have across the partnership to raise these issues, to have a look at it. I think the callback service was one of those improvements that came out. The other one was around extending the opening hours, having additional phone lines. I don't know the specific detail about the staffing and how that works, but I do know that the manager can track the number of staff who are on and the number of calls that are coming in and start to move people around. So I think they are doing everything they can to try and address this, but the numbers aren't reducing. And so I wonder if that might be an area of interest that I can ask them to come forward. Yeah.
Well, because actually, I was going to go on to say, in fact, that we should actually add this to our, to our work programme. We should ask for a report about what the causes are, what they're doing to remedy it, and obviously we might be able to come up with some suggestions as well that can help. But
I think we've been given the answers in advance,
yes,
but as it were, secondhand. And
no, I think we actually need. I mean, we're just getting, not just getting, we're getting the statistics. What we want is the thoughts behind it, the whys and the wherefore. So I do think when we come to the work programme that we should add that on to that. Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I had an experience with a phone call, and I think it was answered within the time. And I think I was very pleased. I was shocked because they answered me and then they convert me straight to the department I required to talk to. So that was fine. I don't know if to improve it, probably have straight line to go to the department required. If I want to talk to the environment, I should probably call the environment straight away and somebody should answer, because I think where people they complain about is when they call, you have, the front desk, they will answer and they will try to connect you. And sometimes there is no one to respond from that department. So then you fall, oh, there is nobody. Can we call you later or give? So this is where it put the frustration. Maybe it will be wiser just to phone straight to the departments needed and somebody will answer. If not, I think people will make it easy. Anyway, that's just an opinion. But my question to you, Susan, I have, on page 153, and we have healthy lives. So I just noticed because the Q4 2023-2024, the first thing, visitors numbers and number of tickets sold leisure venue was 76,199. However, the same quarter 2024-2025 is 74, is less than that one. So I don't know what reason is that, which reason. So it drops a bit. And my question, should be worried that probably the next quarter, similar quarter, will be bigger drop, or probably it will be better, especially knowing that Jeff Mulder is under refurbishment for the next 18 months.
Yes, I think the commentary explains a little bit about some of the issues that happened in that quarter. So there was the total failure of the leisure pool, air handling. I think there was some things around the training pool and Anglian water pump facilities failed, and then the complex had to close down. So that was part of the reason for the Q4, and in Q1, quite right, we expect that to be down as well.
Yeah.
It's the same thing applies on number of swims. We used to have 42,506. Q4 23-24, and now we're on 19,800. So the swimming is like a drop in certain ways, and it may drop probably bigger than what we will expect from the refurbishment of Jeff Mulder. That's one thing. The second thing, which is I want to mention, there is because that's page 155, and that's safety and resilient communities, and we're talking about number of council antisocial behaviour cases opened. The first quarter we had 235, and now we are on 118, the Q4. is that reducing in a good way because of the works we do and how we tackle the issues?
It's difficult to say with a trend measure because we're not trying to aim for a particular target or to say whether it's better or worse for those numbers to go up or down, because you're quite right, it depends whether it's something that we are running intentionally to increase those figures or not. The reason we report the antisocial behaviour and some of the other measures are to show the impact of some of those services where you only really notice if they go wrong. So this is to show there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes in some of these areas in licensing and other things where and food safety, not to wait until the performance is bad and you only hear that side of things. It's just to give us some context. And actually the government have they're consulting on a new way of doing some performance measures, and they're using a different word for trend measures. And I've written it down because I like it. Contextual metrics. And I think we might pinch that because I think it's much more expressive of what some of these measures are trying to do. They're trying to give you the context, but you can't necessarily say that that's a good or a bad thing. It's just something that's happening that we're aware of, and over time, if that trend moves, that would inform some of the decisions that the services make, but it's slightly different to our performance, so I think I might pinch that.
My other thing is again, and the same thing, antisocial behavior, but we have here cases closed, and I think the first quarter 214, 133, and then now quarter 4 is only one case. My question regarding the closing of the cases, have we been paid? Or is it just people probably never paid and we just went through all these administrations and probably waste of time and money and we just closed them?
I'm not sure there are any payments related to antisocial behaviour cases. I don't know it well enough. I should have asked Pete to stay behind and he could have explained it better than me. But I think, again, some of the things around the numbers are it's just timing. So if that's when that case was due to end and it could close, then that's why it would be that. But I will ask for some more clarification. Usually the case is open and then it's reviewed and then it might be extended. But that's not my area of expertise. So I will speak and yeah.
We can get some details for next time.
Yeah.
To know why. And one more thing, if I may, Mr. Chairman. And one more thing, if I may, Mr. Chairman, it's just because we talk about the updated of the leisure and things. Can we get any update on Jeff Mulder, how the things are going, and also on Rosegard Square? Because what I have noticed lately, the last few days, is the work stops by
the work program with them for Suzanne.
Okay, we take it off and we go to turn the work program. Then Susan, I'll let you go. But thank you very much, Susan. Thank you.
Just coming back on the swimming lessons, swimming use. So Boston Leisure Centre membership residents, can they use other places like Princess Royal Leisure Centre? Do we have any information? Have we shared with residents?
I don't know. I'll find out. That's a good point. Yeah, I will find out.
Information for you. Okay. All the members of Jeff Mulder Centre, especially the people who go swimming, they can book their time at the training swimming where the kids goes. So for that period of time, I think it's 18 months, they can book the time and they can go and use that one. However, some of them, they say they may go to Princess Arena. However, they say it's too small. So if you need to have a swimming lesson, you have to book prior to your time in, and you have to organize it with them, with Jeff Mulder.
My point would be if we have shared any of that information with our residents, like myself, I have a membership. I know that it works. You can go to Princess Royal and you can book lessons. But the main thing, have we shared information with members, our residents? Do they know that we can still use?
I come in probably on that. Just because I go there and I'm there like 4 times a week and I know people who go swimming. Jeff Mulder now is run by a private company, if I may. I think they lease it from the council, but it's run by private company. They didn't email anybody. They didn't inform anybody. The people who found out, we found it out, all of us, in the same day. So I meet some of my friends, they were already ready to go to swim and they were waiting. And then they went back to the reception. They say, is the swimming pool open? No, it's closed. We weren't informed. Well, it's closed. For how long? For the next 18 months. That's how people are. And I think it's probably the management who didn't inform the members. So we could receive all of us an email through membership, but we didn't. But that's as far as my.
Thank you, Chairman, through you, if that's okay. So, yes, the leisure pool at the Jeff Morder Leisure Centre is closed, you're correct, but the training pool is open. So members can still use the training pool, and members for Jeff Morder Leisure Centre can use the facilities at Princess Royal Arena as well. I'll take away the view expressed by members about lack of awareness. I know there has been a number of press releases around the redevelopment of the leisure centre and the impact that's going to have on customers. And I do know that Parkwood, who are the contractors on behalf of the council, are pushing information out to their members through their members' contacts channels. But I think it's one of those classic cases. There's never too much communication. I think and are we getting that communication route down the right channels? Well, I can certainly raise that in my role as project sponsor for the redevelopment of the Boston Leisure Centre, and we're having a meeting. I think it is next week, so I'll certainly flag the concerns around comms, Chairman.
So is everybody now happy with the report?
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. An excellent report again, Anthea. So nice and clear. So I think we'll take on board the issue of the call handling. But thank you for that, and we'll see you in a quarter's time. Which brings us to the work programme. So we've just raised the issue of call handling, which I think we will add. You also received a very detailed report from Ray on the issues we raised at our workshop. What I suggest with that is we actually mull on that. We haven't got it. We're hardly half the committee here at the moment. So I do think we will flag up for the September meeting that we'll put aside a piece of time to work on that with the work programme. I mean, we've got enough for September anyway, because we have guests. So we have invited the portfolio holder for highways to come to the September meeting, and the Links Road Safety Partnership to our October meeting. Well, he has agreed to come. I mean, obviously, yeah, no, oh no, I don't. It was easy. I mean, to say it's easy, I didn't have to do it. But I think Ray was very successful in getting a commitment very quickly. Can I just, I mean, I know we've sent out emails, but can I just again reiterate the clever question at these meetings that allows a visitor to say to us, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to this at the moment, and I will write you, isn't helping scrutiny. So if you are going to ask a question, particularly a more technical question, obviously more general, if you're going to ask, what are your views on a bypass or whatever. But if you're actually going to ask, well, I've got this road, wherever road X, and I've reported it 27 times and nothing's happened. All you're going to get if you ask that on the night is I don't know the answer and I'll come back to you. And then we will never know the answer. So we just need to make sure that you think about what you want to ask, and we give as much notice as we can, which will enable us then to scrutinise things. So just a plea. But has anybody got anything they particularly want to add to the work programme? Councillor Woodward.
Lincolnshire Police Appeal Report. Oh, Lincolnshire Police and Appeal Report, and Chief Constable Paul Gibson. Has he agreed to come to see you?
He hasn't as yet.
Right.
No, but we are still working away on that. We have at least open lines of communication now. Again, it was, Ray. I mean, in fairness to our democratic service officer, and particularly Ray now, who is our officer, they are working really hard to try and enable us to get that. At the moment, they don't want particularly to play, but we do have levers, but it's a matter of softly a bit at the moment, which actually was a police series.
I was going to mention that, yeah.
Yeah, but no, but it is still on the horizon. But because at the moment, we've got for our next 2 meetings, we've got things we can start looking at, and then we've got from the workshop we had, we've got a whole load of work to come through. So I think we're going to be able to keep ourselves busy. But I do agree it is an important issue that we do need to not let go of.
No, because September is quite a key time for the Lincolnshire piece, really. That's could be when the money runs out, and they and then have a Section 114. So and then we don't know whether we'll have any policemen at all around.
No, so it is, but we are. Thank you for your assistance with it. You are keeping us informed, but it is something we are trying to keep on top of. But in the end, we don't. We can't actually summon, even though I'd like to be able to. Yeah, but thank you. So if people are happy with where we are at the moment, I think we can close the meeting. Oh, Councillor Danny.
Because I was talking about Rosegard Square and updates. Can we put it on the next program for the September one? Just to get a brief idea what's going on and and how things are in.
Yeah, that would be easier.
Thank you, Councillor Danny. I wonder whether that's perhaps something that can be dealt with through perhaps members' evening, sort of a members' briefing or a members' update.
Yeah, I think that would be. Yeah, maybe yes. I think we go for that first, and that would make sense because again, we can be slightly more conversational about things, can't we? So I think a members' briefing.
Yeah, because just the reason why, Alan, because a lot of people asking the streets, what's going on. And as Councillor Savikiani said, we sometimes you don't have the information. I was lucky to have the information about Jeff.
No, but it's just the right to. I think of this one a members' briefing where we can speak more freely, rather than but with the underlying thing that if they don't, then we'll bring it to scrutiny. Yeah. No. Fine. Oh yeah. No, I'm more than good idea, Captain Danny. Thank you. So with that, I close the meeting. Thank you for your time. Thank you.